Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My wife won't let me play video games for 30 minutes a day. After that, ticking off the base commander. And after that, I shut off their internet and it'll cost them $1,000 to turn it back on. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to stop her husband from playing video games for 30 minutes a day. If you played video games for 30 minutes a day, you need a new head. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My wife won't let me play video games for 30 minutes a day. So I, 37 male, work as a service manager for a high volume dealer and I'm out of the house for 12 hours a day. I leave at 6 a.m. and I don't get home until 6 p.m. for 5 days a week. My wife, who's 33, gets upset when I get home and after eating dinner, I want to get a couple of rounds of Call of Duty in. My wife is a stay-at-home mom with our 18-month-old and thinks it's absolutely criminal that I want to get some decompression time at the end of the day. My daughter is still in the mommy all the time phase, so she prefers to spend more time with my wife than I. Usually when I get home, I will eat dinner, do whatever honey-do's she has for me, and then play for a little. After I'm done, I will join them and spend my time with family, which usually is her watching a movie or show, and I read the same book to my daughter 10 times. My wife says that even when I'm chilling with them, I spend too much time on my phone. While we are all hanging out, if my daughter is asking for my attention, I will stop what I'm doing and do whatever she's asking me to do. Whenever she wants to go back to mommy, I will browse Twitter or Reddit since I usually have absolutely zero interest in what she's watching. She accuses me of being absent and not present since I don't focus all of my free time on her and the baby. Also, side note, she's currently 20 weeks pregnant. So, am I the jerk? Edit. I get up at 5 a.m. and usually fall asleep at 9:30 to 10 p.m. My wife and daughter nap through the day, so when I'm sleeping, they're usually awake for another hour or two. Second edit. It has been confirmed that I am indeed the jerk. Thanks for all the constructive suggestions, y'all. Time to work on adjusting my mindset. Third edit. Although I do see how I can improve, it does seem like some more background is needed on my home and work situation. I literally took this job and all that came with it because my wife decided she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. The original plan was for her to go back to work after our daughter was born, but during her maternity leave, she decided she would rather stay home until our baby was school-aged. During that time, she also decided she wanted another baby. I've done everything to try to accommodate her wishes. I took the job, dropped my jujitsu and gym time since I don't have time to go anymore, and really only have the one hobby now that I can do from home. My wife and I's childhoods were similar, raised by single mothers in a low-income neighborhood in LA. Now we have a nice home in a very nice part of a beautiful city. I've struggled and grinded on my own since I was 17, and I'm awfully proud of the life I've managed to build. My wife has always hated gaming, even before the babies, but it's always been a hobby of mine since I was a kid. I didn't have a whole lot growing up, but I had a Nintendo, and instead of messing around on the streets, I would come home and play that to stay out of trouble. The people on this subreddit are absolutely merciless. I've even received messages on how I'm disgusting or I'm a piece of trash, and I should go to heck. That's insane. My wife picks our 2 family destination vacations every year, and on weekends, we're either spending time visiting her family or going camping. Can I be more attentive? Definitely. Is our marriage and life in absolute shambles? Definitely not. I will always be willing to learn and evolve as a person. I've wanted to be a father since I can remember, and will always try to be the best one I can, but I'm still human and still flawed. You're the jerk. You may work 12 hours a day, but you're a dad 24 hours a day. You have 4 competing interests: your family, your job, sleep, and your personal time. Right now, you're giving half of your time to your job. Then you have to divide the remainder of time between sleep, family, and yourself. You can't really take much time from sleep. I'll assume you sleep about 6 hours. Now you have 4 hours for yourself and your family. Take an hour for yourself, 3 hours for your family. Is that enough time? Are you happy being a father and husband for only 3 hours a day? Compare that with your wife. She's a stay-at-home mom 24 hours a day. She's always on call. She constantly has a kid attached to her. Even when your daughter's asleep, your wife can't get too into something because your daughter could wake up at any time. Honestly, your household sounds very stressed. You're stretching yourself thin. Your wife has no reprieves. It's easy for me to say, you need a lot less demanding job, especially if you want more you time. The 12-hour workday and stay-at-home mom isn't making either of you happy. Your wife is telling you that she needs adult attention after spending all day with a baby. When you're there, you're constantly doing everything you can to engage in escapism. She's telling you, but you aren't listening. The day will come when she doesn't complain to you at all, and it will be because she has already left you in her mind. The only thing left will be the packing. Once it gets to that point, there will be no fixing it. You're the jerk. In these cases, I always suggest the following. Take 5 days vacation time. Let your wife go visit a family member or head to a spa. Then for 5 days, take all the responsibility for your kid. Walking, dressing, cooking, feeding, cleaning up the kitchen, playtime, nap time, cooking lunch, feeding, cleaning up, playtime, nap time, preparing dinner for spouse and your kid, setting the table, feeding, cleaning up, everything. See if you can find some time to do the grocery shopping, laundry, and general cleaning as well. Then get back to us. You're the jerk. Play video games after the baby goes to bed. Your wife needs a break, and I say that as a stay-at-home dad. The reason the baby is fixated on mom is because you aren't spending enough time bonding with it. I get that work is long and hard, but parenting takes priority. Or just like, don't play video games every day. I'm sure parents also can't watch their favorite movies or shows or do other hobbies every day. Why are video games always the thing that gets posted here? Dude has a kid and another one on the way and is on Reddit whining about Call of Duty. This is why I wouldn't date a gamer. I'm sure they aren't all the same, but guys like this seem too common. The escapism associated with gaming is so intense. Not the jerk. I say this as a stay-at-home mom of a 6 and a 2-year-old. My husband works 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and has done so for years. As a good wife and mother, once he's home, I just want him to relax from his long day. I don't need a break from my kids. Parenting is not a job the way people try to make it out to be. It's a choice and a lifelong commitment. If you're lucky enough to have a man who's willing to work long hours to provide for his family, you need to treat him right or another woman will. I make sure to have dinner ready when hubby gets home and that the house is nice and clean. People really exaggerate how hard it is to be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm honestly so glad I'm not a man. If I was expected to work long hours, then come home and take over for mom because she needs a break from her kids, I don't think I would have even wanted to have a family. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. How dare someone want 30 minutes to themselves after working for 12 hours a day? Don't you just love Reddit? Ticking off the base commander. When I was 20, I got drafted into the Army. I live in the Netherlands, and this happened in the 80s. I got trained to be an ambulance driver. 2 months of general training and how to drive a Land Rover, and 2 months of medical training. After that, I was ready to take on any medical emergency that came my way. After my training, I got placed in a staff support platoon, a mismatch of different roles that are there to support the higher Army staff in whatever they need. Make coffee, admin, drive them around, tech support, etc. I was their ambulance driver. It was probably helpful when we were at war, but they had no use for me during peacetime. After I got settled on the base where I was stationed, I was called in by my lieutenant, telling me I had been volunteered to work at the small local military post on our base. I was okay with it as it gave me something to do during the time I had to serve in the Army. It was a small post with a clinic, 1 permanent doctor, and 1 drafted out of medical school, and several other grunts like me. Downstairs was our clinic and a few rooms to treat patients. Upstairs, about 12 beds for patients who were sick, but not bad enough that they had to go to a real hospital. We worked at the clinic and took care of the patients upstairs, and maybe 2 to 3 times a week, I had to pull out with the ambulance we used. More often than not, for a planned trip to transport a patient to or from an actual hospital. I started with the rank of soldier, and I was expected to end my 1-year career at the rank of corporal. As you can imagine from the title, that never happened. I did not hate working at the post. On the contrary, I actually felt like I did something useful. And while I was stationed at the post, I learned many practical medical skills, having other soldiers to practice on. But it was a waste of my time. I wanted to start my career in IT, and this was holding me back. I also did not care much about hierarchy or ranks. I respected my fellow Army men and women for what they were, their actions, and how they treated others, not by the number of bars, stars, or stripes. And being an actual medic on our base, I got away with that. We had no roll calls, and I slept in a 2-person bedroom instead of the 12-person one my platoon mates had to use. No inspections, no military training, and wearing white instead of green. Anyways, on to the malicious compliance. I was tending to a patient at the clinic. He and his buddy had walked into a door, their words, and it had a glass window that shattered and cut them both up. One was pretty bad, and he was treated by our doctor in one of the rooms as he needed quite a few stitches. I had to stay in the clinic. And as the other soldier only had minor cuts, I treated him on the spot as no other medical staff was available at that time. The slightly larger cuts I glued shut. For others, a band-aid would suffice. He was sitting in one of the chairs, and I was on one knee in front of him, taking care of a cut on his leg as I heard somebody walk into the clinic. Without looking up, as I was holding a glued cut together with my fingers until it had set, I politely asked to please have a seat and that I would be right there. Colonel. Do you know who I am? I am the base commander, Colonel so-and-so. Yes, he actually said that. I can still hear it in my head 35 years later. His booming, indignant voice, full of air and how important he was. I was not impressed at all, mostly annoyed by his attitude, and told him, "Congratulations. Please have a seat, and I'll get to you once I finish treating the cut that I'm working on." That was not what he wanted to hear, and he started chewing me out. Finally, I was done with the cut, let go of my fingers, and got up. Ignoring his barrage, I asked him how I could help. "Colonel, I need to speak to the doctor. I have an appointment." "Okay, not an emergency." I explained to the colonel that the doctor was treating a patient who needed urgent medical attention and that he will have to wait until the doctor finishes his treatment. He has none of it and tells me how he does not have the time to wait. Then he orders me to tell the doctor that his 3 p.m. appointment is waiting for him. I knew the doctor would drop everything and come running to the colonel if he got wind of who it was that was waiting for him. He did not have much of a spine, and his career was primarily based on the colonel's input and assessment of him. But the colonel had given me an order, and I had to do it. So I went to the treatment room and put my head in. The doctor was busy stitching up the more injured soldier, and I complied with the colonel's order. Me. "Doctor, your 3 p.m. appointment has arrived." The doctor, not realizing or remembering who the 3 p.m. appointment was, told me irritably to have the patient wait until he's finished, and that it could be another 5 to 10 minutes. He repeated what he had told me several times before, to only disturb him for emergencies. I go back to the colonel and tell him that the doctor's still busy treating the other patient and would be available in about 10 minutes. The colonel was not happy to hear that and told me to go get the doctor now. I told the colonel I had explicit instructions to only disturb the doctor in case of an emergency, and that his appointment was not an emergency. He would have to wait. He grumbled a bit, but in the end sat down until the doctor arrived, and he started berating the doctor about how precious his time was and how he had made him wait. The doctor apologized and almost groveled as they moved into the doctor's office. I had to go upstairs for something, and the colonel had already left after I got down. I did get a good ear washing from the doctor, telling me I should have mentioned to him that it was the colonel who was waiting for him. I argued that it should not matter who was waiting if he was treating a patient who was bleeding all over the place, and that he told me himself that he could only be disturbed for emergencies. I never got that promotion to corporal or even soldier first class. Still worth it. I shut off their internet, and it'll cost them $1,000 to turn it back on. I work for a major internet service provider in sales and customer service. If you live in the US, you've probably used this company or have definitely heard of it and how bad it is. I try my best to be helpful and as knowledgeable as possible to help people, and I'm always friendly to my customers. Often, I go out of my way to help people and have even taken time on my days off following up with higher-ups in the company, making sure issues get resolved quickly and properly. People suck. I see it every day. I get people who are unjustifiably upset at the company and not me, so I try my best to help. Some people don't understand I'm not the company. I'm just some guy who works there trying my darn best for crappy pay. When people come to me and from the jump are nasty, belligerent, insulting me, or just straight up screaming at me, thinking that they're gonna get helped, I'm not gonna help them at all. I had a customer come in, throw a modem on the floor as hard as possible, and scream at me because customer service said he had to return his rented modem in person since he didn't want to ship it. I returned the modem, but when I went to change the code to customer-owned equipment in his account, I just hit the disconnect button instead and set the date for 3 weeks ahead. After doing it once, I decided anyone who got violent or insulted me would get shut off too. Sometime in early October, I had a customer come in fuming mad because his cable box stopped working. It was old, maybe from 2004 or 2005, so understandably, it needed to be replaced. I got him a new box, answered his questions about setup, and sent him home after I explained it contained a lot of new features, streaming capabilities, and even a remote you can talk to. It didn't work out as easily as it should have. This customer didn't understand that this cable box used a different interface than his nearly 20-year-old box. Everything looks different. From the menus to the guides, it's a whole new layout. He came back livid. I got called every name under the sun, about a dozen times. I told him I'd have an older style box sent to him in 2 days and that it should work the same as his old one. He said he was leaving for vacation in a week for 2 months and that it better show up before he left. He went on and on about how he's wealthy and I'm just some store worker who will never be able to afford to do half the things he does. Even after finishing with him, he spent 5 minutes wandering our store, just finding nasty things to say to me while I just smiled and told him to have a nice day. After he left, I noticed his contract had been renewed. 2 years, and it's $10 per month left if you cancel. So I put a disconnect order in for 11/1. I can't wait until this guy gets his service shut off and gets a bill for $230 plus his normal monthly cost of $265 and a non-returned equipment fee of $150 per cable box. He had 5 boxes. He's going to come back from vacation with no cable, no internet, no home phone, and service that will require an install to set back up again since I put a cable disconnect order in with maintenance. The estimated bill is $1,257. I marked the address as currently non-serviceable and high risk for default. It'll cost him a $250 deposit to get services set up, and it'll take him weeks of back and forth just to get his address serviceable again. Luckily for me, I will no longer be working there when he gets back from his vacation and realizes what happened. We're the only ISP you can get in the area. 0 other options, and cell service is spotty at best. He's going to have to jump through endless hoops and spend all that money to ever have internet again. If he ever happens to read this, forget you. I hope you never know happiness, you old miserable jerk. Edit. Just some background information on this whole situation since I got some real nasty DMs in the last hour or so. To the people that said, "You're the reason why he was so mad, you messed something up obviously and it's your responsibility to fix it." This guy was mad that the guide looked different. He had a full-out red-in-the-face scream session over this little minute thing. A grown man in his mid-40s yelling at a short 20-year-old guy who's just trying to do their job and is being friendly. Imagine every time Apple changed the calendar app, you walked into the Apple store and blew up at someone. Seems unreasonable, right? Even after appeasing this guy and finding out how to get him some older equipment again, he walked around the store messing with every display, calling me names and saying mean things about my coworkers who had gone on lunch right as he was walking in. After telling my coworkers about it, one asked, "Is it the guy with the green BMW?" Apparently, this dude has come in to scream at employees on a few occasions over the last 6 months or so, one of which he screamed in the face of was the sweetest and most patient people I've ever worked with. A week prior to me dealing with him, this guy had come in to harass my coworkers yet again because his cable box had no picture, the one I replaced. My coworker looked up his account, realized the box was pushing 15 years old, and told him to bring it into us so we can give him a new one. He blew up on them, got aggressive, and was told not to return. He didn't abide by that, obviously. He had notes in his account over months from various stores, customer service reps, and a billing manager about how mean he is. My coworkers all know this guy by name and will adamantly refuse him service. The other 3 stores in the area have been made aware and even got CCTV footage of this guy from us. When he came to me the first time, he was rude, saying all kinds of nasty things about my coworkers, and saying how if I don't make him happy, he's going to disconnect his service. I obliged that request later, albeit without his permission. In the process of me disconnecting his account, I made sure it would be as difficult as possible to regain access, made notes in his account saying the customer was non-serviceable, and made sure to remove all of his login info from his account as well. These notes do not say who they were left by, and the system does not show who created the disconnect. In the disconnect order, it doesn't specify who did it, only when. I did this hours later, after he had left, and after he had called customer service multiple times. He had called customer service maybe 25 times that month total, so unless they somehow pull every overseas call, they're out of luck for finding me. Not that I care if they do since I'm gone next week, My boss was well aware I did this and even gave me props since he's been harassing employees for months now. This is the second time this year I've left a retail job over how awful people are. In June, I had a full breakdown working for yet another terrible overpriced company after a customer began harassing me with their friends and family via social media and calling my phone all hours of the night after they got my number somehow. I liked my job. I went to work at a place where I had a friend with me, so I'd actually enjoyed working there. People like this jerk ruined it for me. I've been accosted by customers who recognized me months later out in public, yelling at me over things I didn't do. I've had people look me up on social media since my name was on their receipts. I've had people wait outside of where I work to harass me when I got off. I had coworkers calling me on my day off because someone was so upset they got a late fee and only wanted me to deal with it. I don't get to do a job I actually enjoyed because it's been ruined for me by the nastiest people on the planet. People like this guy are why I no longer have any social media with my name on it. Spend time every month Googling my name to make sure those sketchy websites with your address don't have my information for the 10th time, and had to change my phone number twice this year. The company I work for is a nasty, monopolizing giant that couldn't care less about its employees or its customers. Don't mess with people who have access to important things in your life. This dude lives in an area that I know has absolutely zero cell coverage, and now he can sit at home, cut off from the rest of the world. It's like being rude to a waiter. They will spit in your food. If you think I'm a jerk, go right ahead. But just know, if you're rude to a retail worker who has access to your utilities, it may not end well for you. Edit 2. Just got back into work and pulled this account back up for giggles. The location is marked as non-serviced, like entirely. When I pull his account up and click on the address, it says, "Address not serviceable, no connection to premises." The system for setting up new accounts refuses his address, and the only thing that can see his account at this point is the equipment management system. Everything else is gone, like gone. This dude ain't getting internet again anytime soon. He can have a fun time trying to convince CenturyLink to do a new install in the middle of absolutely nowhere. In the address notes, there's also, "Technician confirmed, non-connect. Address not serviceable, no future plans for install." Looks like what I did worked, and the time it'll take for someone to notice will just cement the fact this dude most likely will never get internet service at his house again. Once a tech validates no service for an address, it's done. They won't even bother trying in the future. This is not okay by you. While no customer has the right to treat any service worker like that, you cannot just terminate their contract because they were rude. You are a huge jerk. My goodness, OP, you are a petty jerk. And it's the actions of people like you putting unwanted and unasked for disconnection orders onto people's accounts who make the customers angry, and then they mistreat the poor innocent customer support person they deal with the next time. You are a power-tripping jerk, and the angry customers are karma for your actions. Forget him and forget anyone who acts like that. They deserve nothing but misery and loneliness until they learn how to treat people. ETA. This person had it coming for a long time. No business should be obligated to provide service to people like that. I won't allow my staff to take mistreatment like this from customers, much less so after living through a lockdown and really seeing some people for who they are. Dating myself, but to quote Nels Olson, that guy should be kept in a cage and fed with a stick. Well, what do you think? Did OP take it too far or not? Please let us know. Looks like that customer messed around and found out. Am I the jerk for refusing to forgive my sister and not inviting her to my wedding? I, 30 male, have a sister, Julie, 25 female, and she's in line to inherit our great-grandmother's ring as the firstborn female through our mom's side. My girlfriend, Laura, who's 26, saw the ring and thought it was gorgeous and said that one day she'd like to have a ring just like that. Now, I know what you're thinking if you've ever seen other Reddit posts, but Laura isn't the type to actually expect me to give her that exact ring, just something like it. I wanted to propose to Laura, and because I knew that she wanted a ring just like that one, I decided to pay to have a custom one made. I showed the jewelry maker pictures, but they said that it would be better if they could actually see it in person. I went to my mom, the current holder of the ring, explained the situation, and even showed the invoice before asking if I could borrow it. She agreed, and so I took the ring. The jewelry maker held on to it for about 48 hours, and when I was about to head back to my parents' place with the ring, I got a phone call that Laura was in an accident and at the hospital. I rushed over to the hospital with her family and was horrified to hear that she needed immediate surgery. I honestly couldn't really think of anything else other than my girlfriend and stayed with her mom and sister the entire time. I was so relieved when the doctors said that she was going to be okay and agreed to drive Laura's sister back to the house and then come back. I dropped Laura's sister off and went back to my place to shower when I saw the police there waiting for me with my parents and Julie. Julie then ran over to me, calling me a thief and demanding her ring. Apparently, Julie found out that Mom gave me the ring and assumed that I lied about just borrowing it. My parents tried to calm her down, but when I wouldn't pick up, bad cell reception at the hospital and my phone had died. Laura called the police. I handed Julie the ring right then and there and told my family about Laura before walking into my apartment. I also saw that Julie had trashed me all over social media, but almost everyone was apologetic when I and Laura's sister explained everything. Julie took down her posts, but never apologized. I proposed to Laura once she had recovered. She said yes, and we're preparing for the wedding. Laura asked my other sister, Annie, who's 21, to be a bridesmaid, and when Julie asked if she was going to be one, Laura and I informed her that she wasn't invited. Julie is calling me bitter and saying that I had no reason to still be angry with her. My parents think I'm being too harsh by not at least inviting her, but I'm still angry. Am I the jerk? Edit, because I keep seeing this in the comments or in the DMs. 1. Julie took down the posts the following day she got the ring back. 2. Julie thinks that I made myself look guilty by not responding to the multiple calls and texts that I received before she called the police. 3. I'm not sure what Julie said or did to convince the police to come with her, but all I know is that she was trying to report a theft. Also, my parents were already talking to the police when I arrived, trying to explain the situation. It's not like my mom had physical proof of ownership, it's just a verbal agreement and understanding. So the police had to ask questions and mediate the situation. But once I handed the ring back, the issue was considered dropped. I don't know if Julie got in trouble for calling the cops, and frankly, I didn't care. Not the jerk. Introduce your parents and Julie to the 4-part apology. 1. I'm sorry that I. 2. It was wrong because. 3. In the future I will. 4. Will you forgive me? Julie also needs to post a retraction and public apology repeatedly on every social media platform she has. Tell your parents that you have no way of knowing if Julie realizes what she did was wrong, as she's made no effort towards reparation. Because she thinks so little of you that she assumes you would steal from her. You can't imagine why she would be interested in attending your wedding. Not the jerk. Your sister is a greedy, self-entitled individual. She hadn't even been given the ring yet by your mother. I do question, though, why your mother bothered telling her when you just borrowed it. Not the jerk. You did nothing wrong. Julie owes you a huge apology for calling you a thief, calling the cops on you, and smearing you all over the internet. You can inform your parents that this is the condition for her getting invited. Karen refuses to move her car, now she needs a new one. The recent storms and fallen branches and trees I've been having in my area lately reminded me of one of my most favorite instances of karma that I've ever witnessed. As with my previous stories, this occurred at a hotel I was working at in upstate New York. It was August of 2011, and we were hunkering down in the hotel for the arrival of Hurricane Irene. We were getting all the necessary safety items and emergency lights in place in anticipation of the storm knocking out power at some point in the middle of the night or during the day. The night the storm hit us, I came in a few hours early before my night audit shift to help with any of the prep and setup. While I was standing at the front desk, the local police showed up and asked us if we could clear all of the cars out of the driveway in front of the hotel so that if emergency vehicles needed to access the hotel, there weren't any cars blocking their way. I had my valet guys move the cars over to the large parking lot off to the side and park them square in the middle, away from the trees and branches. As I was watching them move cars, a guest rolls up and drives up in her Porsche right into the driveway and parked it along the side. She was walking with a purpose, and before I even spoke to her, I knew what her response was going to be. Me. Excuse me, ma'am. Porsche driver. What? Me. We need you to move your vehicle over to that parking lot so we can keep the driveway clear for emergency services. I can have one of my valet guys move it for you. I'm not moving my car. It stays right where I can see it. Me. Ma'am, this isn't really an option. It needs to be moved or the police will have it moved. If you or the police so much as lay a finger on my car, I'm suing all of you." She stormed off to the bar, and that was the last we saw of her that afternoon. The police came back to check on us and saw the car in the driveway. They said, "Thought we asked you guys to clear the driveway." I relayed the story to them and said I could point the lady out at the bar. They just rolled their eyes and decided it wasn't worth the hassle. Later that night, as I was running the night audit reports, the wind picked up, letting myself and the overnight maintenance guy know that the storm was approaching. We stood outside under the Porsche and watched as the rain and wind started coming in harder and harder. At that point, a police car pulled up and parked in front of us just to make sure we were okay. We asked him if he needed a top-up on his coffee since we had brewed a fresh pot, and he took us up on that offer. As he got out of his car, the wind began breaking off branches on the smaller trees across the road and surrounding the parking lot where we had moved guests' cars. We went inside the lobby to watch as some of the trees began to sway and break, when all of a sudden we heard snap, boom, crash, beep. One of the largest branches from the tree next to our driveway had snapped off and landed square on the jerk's Porsche. The three of us watching let out a simultaneous, "Holy smokes." We sat there, stunned, when the maintenance guy spoke up. You're the police. Shouldn't you go out there and assess or something?" Policeman responded, "Yeah, probably should write up a report on that." We were sitting there debating whether we should call the lady in her room when the power went out, and we had to abandon the thought and go wake up the employees that were sleeping at the hotel so they could help set up glow sticks and lights on all of the floors. As the sun started coming up, some of the employees started walking the floor to collect the glow sticks and lights when one of them saw the Karen come out of her room and walk over to a window overlooking the driveway. She ran down to the front desk as soon as she heard a guest yell, "What the heck?" We anticipated the guest storming down to the driveway to survey the damage on her car, so we went into hiding, but made sure we had a great view of her walking around her car. She came storming back into the lobby and demanded to speak to someone in charge. By that point, our GM had already been briefed on the entire situation and was well and truly ready for whatever BS this lady was going to throw at him. I'm not sure what happened after that, other than a tow truck had to come and pick up her car. I believe she did try to sue, but there were enough witnesses to corroborate our story that she was asked to move her car for that very reason, and she didn't comply. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.